Hello and welcome to Sales Tips by Fortreal Real Estate Academy. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you the lessons I learned from the very first house I ever sold. And trust me, you're going to learn very important lessons from this particular video. A lot of you, always ask questions, and this is one of the questions I intend answering in this particular video, and it's a very important one. So I do encourage you to watch this video to the very end, because the lessons here are such that you do not want to miss. Whether you are somebody who is already in the business or you are new, you're a newbie looking to gain some inspiration or some strategies as it relates to how to deal with certain transactions, this video is definitely going to help you. My name is Raymond Ijema, and I am the lead facilitator of the Fortreal Real Estate Academy. And what we're doing at the Fortreal Real Estate Academy is phenomenal. We're impacting the real estate sector, making sure that people who know nothing know a lot, and then by virtue of what they know, they can begin to sell consistently and become top selling brands and realtors and developers. And that's what we're guaranteeing at the Fortreal Real Estate Academy, right? So make sure you subscribe to the channel, like this video, drop a comment, and do stay in touch with this channel, because right here we're making sure that you are getting the best of knowledge as it relates to real estate, knowledge and skill as it relates to selling real estate here in Nigeria. And then the good thing is that we're having people who are enrolling into our program from the UK, from the US, from Rwanda, from Uganda, right? So do make sure that you are a part of this. So whether you are in Nigeria or not, this video will help you, and our program generally, our courses generally will help you sell greatly, right? So the very first house that I sold, 7 lessons learned. This is like years ago now, and it happened that I had a neighbor. So I'm going to put this together from a story and then share the lessons. So I had this neighbor. First lesson, I had this neighbor who was living. First, let me say this: environment matters a lot. So I was initially living in a face me and face you apartment, and for you, depending on wherever you're living, right, it doesn't matter. But what I'm going to just say here is what I need to say. It may not be what you want to hear, but it will help you, right? So I was living in this place, and one room, face me and face you, kitchen, toilet, outside, everything was outside. And it happened that I needed to leave. I was tired of living there. And God helped me. I was able to, it was beyond what I had planned. It was a 1 room apartment. I could have moved to a 1 room and a parlor, right? I could have moved to a self-contained even, right? But I deliberately decided to move to a 2 bedroom flat. And I did. And it was a very good location in town, right? That was in Benin. So it happened that because I became a neighbor in that neighborhood, I had a neighbor. The neighbor was a top civil engineer working with government, and he had somebody who he was managing the property, and because he had been seeing my activities as it relates to real estate, he now thought it wise to reach out to me in helping to sell the house. First lesson: I had never sold, or no, let me come back to the so that I don't lose you, right? First lesson is a lesson of relationship. But if I'm going to trace it back based on how I just said it, the very, very first lesson, which will make it 8 lessons, the very first lesson will now be environment and neighborhood. If I was living in my, or if I was still living in my 1 room, face me and face you, I definitely wouldn't have ever met that man. I wouldn't have had a neighbor like that, right? And it means that I wouldn't have known him, and we wouldn't have done any business. So the first point or the first lesson is environment, where you are living, your relationships, right? And then outside of the environment, it is the environment that naturally impacts your relationships, right? So within that environment, I've developed a relationship. But again, I could have still been in that house and be a snob to everybody. In other words, refuse to relate with everybody. If I was in a bad relationship with him, or if I didn't care about him, and I didn't do myself, or didn't know I was in the business, then there wouldn't have been any form of transaction, right, or recommendation to sell the property. That is the first lesson, or the first 2 lessons: environment, relationship. The third lesson, which, or I'll just call it the second lesson now, but just know that I've given you 2 lessons. The second lesson is the lesson of courage. Prior to that time, I had never sold any house before. That is why this video is the first ever house that I sold. I never sold the house before. I was only selling things within the range of 1 million, 1.5, 2 million, 1 million, 2 plots, 500K, 4 plots, around that range. I never sold the house. So to me, it was a major challenge. I didn't think I could ever sell it. But I told myself when he first reached out to me, the first thing that came to my consciousness was that, come on, you never feel say 5 million naira land, you want to sell house, But by and large, I thought to give it a try. In fact, it was the very first house that I put out there in public that I was selling. So by virtue of courage, I decided to give it a try. It took me there, did a video, and then I put it out there. Now, I haven't put it out there, so I'm going to add certain lessons that are coming to my mind that I did not write down earlier. I'm hoping to touch a little of them now, or a bit of them rather. So eventually, I did a video, put it out there, and about a week, 2 weeks later, somebody reached out, or people started reaching out, right? And then one of them was very, very obvious. Lady reached out, and then we're having conversations. At the end of the day, I mean, it was a benign environment, and I realized that this woman was negotiating. The negotiation was too bad. Property was put at about 27 million naira. It was below market value because of the location, and this lady was pricing it for 15 million naira thereabout. And to me, it was extremely ridiculous. People started calling from different places. It was later on that I realized that these people, oh, I think I'm already talking about certain things, but so let me stay on courage first. Courage was the reason I took it, right? So that's point number two, or lesson number two. The third point is the platform, right? I had already started creating platforms. In other words, places where I could get leads from. So because I had already been building and developing that platform, when I had the product and placed it on the platform, which is where you leverage on social media, at that point, leads came in by virtue of the audience I was already building, which is the third lesson. So if you want to sell, you need to make sure that you are building platforms, leveraging on social media. That is generally your social media setup. All right. So point number one, environment, relationship, courage, platform. Now, mediation and negotiation, which is the point I was already jumping. Now, what happened, like I was saying, this lady reached out, and then a few days later, different ladies started reaching out. It was later that I knew that all of them were from the same source. So what happened was, this one will call, negotiate 15 million. The other one will call, negotiate 17. The other one will call, negotiate 20. Right? I never knew I was dealing with the same people from the same family. It was a family. It was a property that the entire family wanted to buy. Right? So it was as though they were playing with me. But at the end of the day, I just stayed really cautious and patient, else I would have lost it. Right? So eventually happened, did inspection. When we're doing inspection, they did inspection with the grandma. Grandma positioned herself that she was the one that wanted to buy the house, that the children wanted to buy it for her. And then they were offering me money for inspection. I refused. And then, which was very strange. It was extremely strange. And in fact, the inspection was in the rain. It was very serious. Thankfully, I had a car at the time, right? So we did all the things we did. I took them to their house because it was raining. Now that is being kind. So a lot of things happened in terms of relationship, and they did not want to joke with me because I had extended too much value than they could, or they even had in mind. Now the other part was that, or let me finish on the negotiation. So it happened that negotiation happened. At the point, we moved to the point of bringing in a lawyer, had meetings upon meetings, negotiating with the seller. The seller directly was not in the country. So it was a lot of back and forth. But one thing happened in between. I stayed at the mediative point. In other words, I was making sure that I am passing this information to the buyer, to the seller, making sure that everybody was fine. If you bring a very ridiculous offer, I take it back, explaining why the offer may not be the best, but it should or it can be considered. Right. So it was a lot of mediation and negotiation in between. And at the end of the day, of course, the transaction closed. Right, but I'm going to give you certain points that will still help in making sure that you understand what's happening. In fact, at a point, I had to even stay on the side of the person who was selling the house, because it was looking like they were trying to play with us. Right, at the point they said they were going to pay full money. We came for a meeting. They sent only half instead of the full money. Right, so correct me. We had to even shout at some point, and then, but at the end of the day, again, mediation. Sometimes you can raise it. I had to raise my voice at the point to the lawyer who was presenting them. But the whole essence of raising my voice to make sure that everything is properly captured is just to make sure that there's a balance, so that my clients are not insulted in the process. By raising my voice, I don't mean insulting the lawyer or insulting anybody, but at certain times you should be extremely firm and put your point so that everybody is aware, right? So it was a lot of back and forth, but again, if you understand the skills of negotiation and mediation, it will just help you generally, irrespective of the kind of transaction that you're having, right? So the fifth point that helped me a lesson is the legal knowledge. The lawyer was extremely difficult. The lawyer wanted to stress me by all means. That is why I say you mustn't be a lawyer to do real estate. But sometimes, trust me, there are certain transactions that you can never do without having something serious to do with the lawyer or the legal representative of the client, right? So the lawyer really wanted to push me aside and just shove everything off. But I stood my ground because I'm a lawyer, not just a lawyer now, because there are certain lawyers that don't even understand real estate, right? But either ways, it is about the knowledge, which of course you already know that we have the real estate law course that can give you all the information you need to know about the legal part of the business. So I knew the legal part of the business, and I made sure that I also educated my client, because at the point the representative wanted to sign the transaction. I had to request to look at the power of attorney, because the power of attorney did not authorize him to sell. It only authorized him to manage the property. So those were certain legal stuff that came in between that I handled effectively and professionally, because Raymond, I'm the lawyer, right? The property lawyer, the lawyer that loves real estate, right? I've always loved real estate from day one. And since then, I've merged the legal and the real estate thing together to make sure that the clients or my clients get the best. And of course, my realtors and students, right? So the legal knowledge was a great advantage for me, right? So it also helped me in the mediation as well. It helped me making sure that both parties are fine, even in the contract that we had to sign, everything was sorted, right? And of course, number 6 is patience. Everything I'm talking about took almost a month. When we eventually agreed to receive about 80% of the money, and then balance, I had to prepare a document to capture the balance of the payment, which was paid exactly 1 month after, right? So patience. So even before the transaction closed, patience was a factor to look at, right? And again, just so that I am able to capture it. It was the day. Now, these people were negotiating to a point that I really could have insulted them, which is the patience thing that I'm talking about. I really could have blocked their number. But again, it happened that I was patient. And there's something very important that happened, which still takes me a little back to the issue of mediation and negotiation, right? It was on the day that the transaction was supposed to be closed that I knew that all of them were together. But if I had every reason to be rude and disrespectful to one of them in particular, right? Because at the point, because they were taking me back and forth, I had to be communicating in a way, it's about to be sold, somebody wants to pay, and all of that. And I could have lied in between, but assuming I did, all of them would have just known that this guy is just lying and saying things that are not existent, right? So eventually, it was on that day I realized that all of them were from the same family. And when they saw me, I was like, you are part of this, you're part of it, and all of that. And they were like, yes, well done, we did see your work. Now all of us are buying, it's family property, right? That kind of thing. And then there's also that part of negotiation and mediation which I need to touch a little bit. There's one of them who was somewhat in the front of the entire transaction who now wanted a cut from my commission, which I think I should talk about that in another video entirely. But generally, I'll do it as a story in another video. But generally, I was able to let certain things go while also remaining firm as relates to what is possible. What is possible? If it is not possible and practicable, let's not do it. And I don't want to make a promise as relates to what is not possible, right? So there are certain things you just have to understand in the business, because it takes a lot of negotiation. In fact, this woman was ready for this transaction not to pull through except I make her a good offer, right? So I needed to create a balance between the offer and the amount the property was supposed to be bought. Because if I had missed that point, the woman would have said the property transaction should not go on, right? So she, in fact, she literally became greedy, right? So that's part of the whole mediation thing. It's the real estate sector. a lot of money is involved, and everybody wants to get a part of it before it ends, right? So the last one is knowledge. Knowledge. Prior to that time, I had started taking knowledge very seriously, enrolling for anything I could find, watching any video I could find, internationally, globally, locally, and all of that, right? So at the time, I was already embodied with good knowledge, quality knowledge, the right knowledge that helped me in putting all of this together. And that is where I say you should always don't joke with knowledge. If you joke with knowledge in the business, then you joke with a lot of things. If you joke with knowledge, then you joke with even your money and the future possibilities that the business can hold for you. And if you're looking for that level of knowledge, Fortreal Real Estate Academy got you covered 100%, both in the sales and marketing and sales, closing, everything in between, the terminology, everything, including the legal part of the business. So if you're interested in that, you're ready for that, you can reach out to the number on your screen. And if you're not, still watch other amazing videos, free videos that are on this YouTube channel, and be rest assured that you will get a lot of value that will help you in playing in a way that can give you a certain level of knowledge and result, right? And yeah, so that's what I have for you today. I hope to keep sharing very important tips that will help you in building a great real estate career for yourself and your family, yourself and your friends, right? My name again is Raymond Ijama, and I am the lead facilitator of the Fortreal Real Estate Academy. And I hope that I'm able to see you in class someday while you become a part of the Fortreal Real Estate Academy. Don't forget to subscribe, like this video, drop a comment, and share this video with that realtor friend of yours. Bye-bye.